Hi, happy new month to you. My name is George Asian, your public speaking coach, and today we will talk about how to close a speech. Now, your speech close or your conclusion is very important. So we're not only telling you how to close a speech, we're also telling you how to close a speech and get a standing ovation. Now, there will always be three speeches for every one you actually gave: the one you practiced, the one you gave, and the one you wish you gave. Interestingly, there will always be three speeches that you was, the one that you practiced. And I often tell people, I say, look, practice makes perfect. Fear turns into love when you practice. Got to learn to practice your presentation. Practice your opening at least 6 times, your close at least 6 times, and then your entire body of your presentation once. This is important. So the one you practice, the one you gave, and the one you wish you gave. Have you ever done a presentation before, and then at the end of the presentation you felt, I should have said this, I should have added this, and all of that? So, but when you become very good as a speaker, the very moment the speech you practiced and the one you gave aligns. That's what makes you unique. That's what makes you great. So I encourage you to be more practice. I tell myself, practice before the mirror, practice before the recorder, practice before the video. Keep practicing. The more you practice, the better you become. The more you practice, the better you become. Fear turns into love, and that's amazing. Now, another important quote I'd like you to pay attention to, it's from Martin Frankel. Martin Frankel is an amazing guy, and he once said that well-timed silence has more eloquence than speech. Now, a lot of us want to always give us speeches and just rant on. And because of glossophobia, you make a better speaker when you know how to use pauses, when you know how to time your pauses. And I've taught you that several here, that your pauses can be used at the beginning of your presentation, and your pause can also be used at the end of the presentation, and your pause can be used to transition. So when you time properly, makes a very fantastic presentation. Now, this is the purpose of our presentation today. We're talking about how to close. Now, your opening is supposed to wow the audience, or to tickle the fancy, or to grab their attention. That's your opening. Your body is supposed to draw them in, to woo them, and then your close is supposed to win. So every time you speak, think of winning them. That's why Ralph Waldo Emerson says the ultimate goal of speaking is action. The ultimate goal of speaking is action. And that is so strong. And that's why today we're looking at closing your speeches, and closing them in a fantastic way. However, before we talk about closing your speech, we must talk about opening your speech. First words matter. And let me just remind you again of some very important ways to open your presentation. Good morning is not a fantastic way to open your presentation. It's not bad, but it's not a fantastic way. Or saying your name is not good enough for your presentation. There are many other fantastic ways you can open your speech and get the audience thinking and flowing with you, wooing them, not just wowing them, wooing them along into the presentation. All right, so the first way is to poll the room. How about that? To poll the room. What does it mean to poll the room? Let's assume you're a medical doctor. Would you want to find out if you have other medical doctors there? Okay, I had a meeting, I had to go speak to young people, and we had different ages. And so the examples I was to share were supposed to be for people from 25 and above, but I had people who were looking 18 there. That means I had people who were looking 20. So what I did was poll the room. I got them to stand up, raise their hands if they're between this age and that age, and to sit down in a particular place. I literally rearranged the room so that I could share stories and examples that relate to each of these ages. That's polling the room. How do you begin in a manner that is engaging and fantastic? One way that will not fail you is to begin by telling a story. Begin by telling a story. Stories touches the heart of people, especially a personal story. It reaches out to their imagination, it gets to their emotion. So start with a story. I'm not saying say good morning, I'm not saying tell us your name. I'm saying that a young man was born on May 13, 1982, and that man has evolved to become a top speaker around Nigeria. That man is standing before you today. His name is George Asian. My name is George Asian. I'm that young man. Blah blah. So you tell a story. Use the story to begin your presentation. So start with a story. Another fantastic way to open your presentation is to promise advantages. I mean, tell them what to expect and promise benefits. Highlight the benefits at the beginning. Highlight the benefits at the beginning. We're going to have our lives change. Just for coming for this meeting, X and X and X and Y and Z will happen to you. Promise advantages, especially if you're selling. You want to start promising advantages at the beginning of your presentation. Because you see, a speech is like a sales presentation. It should follow the AIDA principle, AIDA. Grab attention, gain interest, build desire, and then get them to take action. Another way to open your presentation is to use comparisons and contrasts. Comparisons and contrasts. A or B. I mean, Ghana or Nigeria. Okay, so let me give you an example. I have lived, first words, I'm holding the mic. First thing I'm going to say. I've lived in Lagos for 24 years. As a matter of fact, I was born in Lagos, in a place called Ikorodu, Lagos, for 24 years. And more recently, I've lived in Uyo, in Akwa Ibom State, for up to 17 years. The experiences in these two places are quite different. The philosophy, the culture, the drive is quite different. Today, I want to share with you the culture, the philosophies of these two places and how they influence the young people involved. My name is George Asian. I'm here to talk about the philosophies that shape lives because of environments. That's an opening, and I've just used comparisons and contrast as my opening. Now again, I've told you don't use the word introduction. Introduction in public speaking is introduction, however, is a speech writing term and a project term. I've told you that before, right? What other ways can you open your presentation? You can open your presentation with a startling statement. You can say that, for example, that every young person the last 10 years in Nigeria at the age 18 must have had sex before they clocked 18. Wow, that's a startling statement. Now the audience will start thinking, says who? Where did they get the fact from? Is it the World Health Organization? Is it an NGO that said that stuff? Where are your facts? The idea basically is that your opening is supposed to grab them to get their attention and make them want to know what's up, where are you getting these facts from? You can also say that what you're about to learn the next 45 minutes, you will not learn in 4 years in university. That is also a startling statement, and that is meant to grab attention. But of course, if you make those kind of statements, you must be willing to validate your point, authenticate your point, make sure that whatever it is you're saying is proven right. All right? You can also begin with the rhetoric questions. I often tell people that questions arrest attention. Now, as I'm speaking to you right now, you may be thinking of so many things, or you may be. But if I ask you a question, if you were in class and I ask you a question, or if you're in an audience and I ask you, the audience, a specific question, all minds will be diverted towards me at that time. All eyes. Because questions arrest attention. It's like holding somebody at the lapel and getting a person's attention immediately. So we public speakers use questions a whole lot at the beginning to grab attention, especially rhetorical questions that don't require answers. And then we can also use questions in between our presentations to interject as an icebreaker to get people's attention back. Are we together? That's a question. Are you together? Are you with me? Are we still flowing? All of that is part of the communication and helps us to move along. So ask rhetorical questions at the beginning of your presentation is fantastic. All right. So you can also present a problem that needs a solution. You can start by saying, hey, Nigeria is terrible. Corruption is eating deep into the fabric of our society. We need to wake up and do something about it, and you give examples, and then you now say, that's why I'm doing this. So you can present a problem that needs a solution as your opening. Let me give you another example. You can present a common goal. How many of you here wants to make 10 million naira before the end of the year, like I want to make money, 10 million at the end of the year? People will smile, some will raise up their hands, and then you can get to interact with them. So the common goal is that we all want to make money, whether it is 10 million naira or 1 million naira before the end of the year. Does it make any sense to you? Now, this part is what I like so much in opening, and it's called draw from the previous speaker. Now, it's an error for you to go for a meeting and not listen to the previous speaker. Have you ever gone for a meeting before and the first speaker, it's happened to me several times, the first speaker before you did a fantastic job. I mean, he killed it. Everybody shouting, woo! woo, shouting and screaming. And then you are the next speaker and you're like, wow, this guy's taking all the shine. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? All right? Has it happened to you before? What do? I'll tell you what I'll do. If I'm in that situation, when I go to the podium, the first thing I'll do is that I will tell the audience to clap once again for that great presentation and that great speech from that great man. Right? That's the first thing I'll do. The next thing I'm going to do that will get the attention is that, wow, I would even drop from the previous speaker. I'll pick one of his major points. I said, my take home is XYZ from what he said. And from whatever he said, I'll lead on to whatever I'm going to say. So draw from the previous speaker. Drawing from the previous speaker is a fantastic way to open your presentation and to get on a good start. Now, it's very important to call for meetings early and listen to speakers, as they speak. Because, I'll tell you why. A friend of mine told a story that got me laughing. He said that this guy came late for the meeting. He was supposed to be the second speaker, and because he felt, no. So he came after the first speaker was done speaking. They were actually waiting for him to come. So he came and sat down. He did not know that the first speaker was talking about packaging. How the packaging is important. You need to package yourself. This world is very up in nature. You need to package. He didn't know that the first speaker had talked about packaging. So he was invited up on stage, and when he was to speak, he started talking about packaging is not as important. It's what you have on your inside. You must have substance. Substance this, substance that. And the audience were looking at him and wondering, the first speaker said packaging, you are now saying packaging is deceptive and packaging is not important, so we should look at our inside. So, but if the second speaker had come early enough, he would have listened to the first speaker, seen his perspective, and then addressed the issue lightly while leading them to his own point. Does it make any sense to you? It's very important that you come for meetings early. So opening your presentation is important. However, people may forgive your nasty and bad opening, your entry, but they will not forgive your exit strategy. You must develop an exit strategy, because at the end of the day, your goal as a speaker is to win the audience. You want to get them to buy your product. You want them to give their life to Christ. You want or accept salvation. You want them to sow a seed. You want them to sign up for your business. You want them to make a buying decision. So your close should be tilted towards getting them to take action. And so you've got to calculate. I mean, some experts say, plan your close before you think of your opening. Plan your close before you think of your title. How about that? Plan your closing remarks word for word. Sit down before you make a speech and plan, how do I want to exit? What tips, how do I want to get out of this place and make a strong impression? How do I want to get a standing ovation? So plan your opening, word for word. Just as a comedian should leave the audience laughing, the speaker should leave the audience thinking. Your goal is not to make us laugh. Your goal is perhaps to make us laugh, but your goal ultimately as a speaker is to get us thinking. Does it make any sense to you? Alright, so last words matter. Now, let me share with you a few tips on closing. You can recap. Recap is a fantastic way to close. Recap your presentation, highlight the major points, and then say them as you close. Another way to close your presentation is to close with a quote. I'll discuss that later. To close with a quote. All my students use that strategy and it works for them. Close with a quote. Another way to close is to close with humor. You can close. If you can close with humor. You can close with an icebreaker. You can close with different strategies. You can close with a poem. You can close with a song. You can close with many ways. You can close several. But the idea is make sure you close and you close well. You can close with a call to action. A call to action. So let me help you understand these different kinds of closes. There are different kinds of closes that I want you to pay attention to. The first kind of close that I will mention is the challenge close. Now, the challenge close is designed to get the audience to take action, to do something. Now, if you are in a position that is greater than the audience, then you can challenge the audience. If you're a successful entrepreneur or somebody, you can challenge them. I challenge you to do this. I challenge you to do that. You can challenge the audience. So a challenge close, what you use regularly in a challenge close is you. Let us. Don't let us. You can. You should. You're challenging them to do something. And that is so strong. So use the challenge close is a fantastic way. Now, Brian Tracy is a leading expert, a sales consultant, and the author of many books. And he once said about speeches, I understand his bias. He says that always end a speech with a call to action. Always end a speech with a call to action. And I think it's strong. So the second kind of close I want you to write down is called the demonstration close. Now, if you were in class on Saturday, we talked about icebreakers. Icebreakers are activities or games used to engage the audience. So just as much as you can begin your presentation with an icebreaker, you can also close with an icebreaker. Icebreakers, when you use them to close your presentation, are called demonstration close. When you demonstrate, literally demonstrate and say statements that are demonstrative, is called a demonstration close. There's something in public speaking we call speaking props. What is speaking prop? A prop is a property that you have and you use on stage. Now, we have a lot of things we use on stage. For example, the microphone is a speaking prop. Your laptop is a speaking prop. Your presenter is a speaking prop. Anything you have in your hands is a speaking prop. And if you demonstrate that you are closing, like a Bible, like you see pastors when they're about to close the presentation, they close the Bible or they close something, it just shows they're demonstrating their close. So for example, I can be closing stuff and I'm saying that I just close the book, my notes, and I'm saying this concludes a chapter of your life and of my life. And I want to let you know we can begin a new chapter. Thank you very much. Fantastic way to close. You can close. I have a friend who, amazing guy, Toastmaster, and he showed me a video and I like the video so much because this guy came on stage. He came with a rose. The rose was looking beautiful. And as he began his presentation, he began by plucking the rose and telling everybody that that's how life treats us. We're beautiful, but life treats us badly sometimes. And he plucked out the petals and then threw it into a bowl. The bowl apparently was right there on the stage. And he went on speaking, and when he was about to close, he said, even though life treats us nasty, remember that you're still very special and that you can actually grow again into this lovely petal, into this lovely flower. He puts his hand into that bowl, brings out a fresh, beautiful looking rose and shows it to the audience and says, thank you very much. Throws the rose at them and moves away. Fantastic way to close. Fantastic way to close. Jim Rohn of blessed memory, fantastic guy. Do you know Jim Rohn? Do you know Jim Rohn? You should know Jim Rohn. Jimrohn. Go to YouTube, watch his videos, download his books, download his audio. If you're into sales, if you're into business, he was considered as America's #1 business philosopher. Very few people speak as good as he is. Mentor to Tony Robbins, mentor to Brian Tracy, mentor to Les Brown. A fantastic guy. Great guy. I learned a lot from him. I listen to him. I feed from him on a regular basis. So go online and look up for Jim Rohn. One of those days he was closing and I liked the way he closed. He said, the place was filled with people. And he asked them a simple question. How many of us here have taken down notes from the beginning of my presentation to now? People raise up their hands. You've taken down notes, you've written down your names, you've written down all the great ideas I've shared with you. And I said, how many of us know, how many of you know here that all that is in that note represents me? It's me written down. So he said to them, as we leave this place and go to our different homes, as this place is left empty, as the lights go off, and you carry that book away with you wherever you go to, remember that I go with you. Thank you very much. And he left the stage. Amazing way to close your presentation. Another kind of close is called a suggestive close. Now the suggestive close is used not necessarily at the end of a presentation, but in between, so you can give a suggestion and then give a suggestion again and again and again till you close. So you can say before lunch, as I wrap up my thoughts, that, let me say 2 statements, then we close. That suggestion is a suggestive close. We have what's called a title close. What is a title close? A title close is when you use a title to close your presentation. For example, if I was to talk about, will corruption end in Nigeria? Now that's the question, and that is my title. And then I'm saying at the end of the presentation, I'm saying, that's why I say, will corruption end in Nigeria. So my title and my close, aligned, similar, and that's called a title close. Use the title of your speech to close your presentation. Now, so what I encourage you to do when you're writing your close, when you're doing a presentation, is to write down the ending of your speech first before constructing your title. How about that? Try writing down the ending of your speech first before constructing your title. Now, there's another kind of close called the circular close. Circular or circular, C-I-R-C-U-L-A-R close. This kind of close is unique, and you've got to be very creative to use this close. I'll tell you how it works. So you tell a story at the beginning of your presentation. I had a student do it one of those days, and I was so glad. I was last week in class, in the live class. She did it, and it was fantastic. She told a story, kept us hanging, went on to talk about other things, and then referred back to the story, then concluded her thoughts. Amazing. Amazing. Man, she got 9/10 in the speech mastery analyzer. She got 9/10 for me because she closed so well. She started off with the story, left us hanging, went on discussing about so many other things, and then she came back at the close and then concluded the story. Fantastic way. So by referring back to your opening story, that is called a circular close, a circular close. Now, this is the one that you don't get wrong. Now, if you don't know any of these closes, try this and it will work for you. Most of my students use this. It's a fantastic way to get a standing ovation. The idea of the close is to win the audience. The idea of the close is to get a standing ovation, right? The idea of the close is to get a sale. The idea of the close is to get a sign up. So you've got to think about it. And so how do you close? You can close with a quotation. So quotation close is a kind of close. Now be careful about the quotation. The quotation that you're using at your close should totally encapsulate all that you're saying. So all that you have been saying all the while is now encapsulated in that quotation. How about that? Google up. Find a famous quotation, a famous person that has a fantastic, and use it. Use it at the end of your presentation. I like quotations. See, I tell people, I say, if you're giving a presentation and you want to be very considered prepared, use quotes. You want to be considered prepared, use quotes. You want to be considered someone who did a good job, use quotes. You're doing a speech, giving a paper, use quotation. You can use that as a close also. I like these quotes by Napoleon Hill. Do you know Napoleon Hill? He authored the book, The Laws of Success, but his best-selling book ever is a book titled Think and Grow Rich. Now, if you're going to be successful, I tell you and I dare you to look up for that book, Think and Grow Rich, an amazing book. And he said a whole lot. One of the statements he made in one of those books is this. He said, and I want you to pay attention to this, it's very careful, very, very, very important. Pay attention and be careful to listen. He says, no man's education is ever finished. A man's reading program should be carefully planned as his daily diet. For that too is food, without which he cannot mentally grow. Wow. No man's education is ever finished. 50, 60, 70, you're always learning. As long as you're learning, you're never dying. As long as you're learning, you're going to be earning. You always want to learn. Increase your capacity. Dedicated to reading, studying, go back to school, take that course, take that degree, learning new skills. This end of time, this 21st century, people who will thrive, who will survive, and who have multiple skills. So during the lockdown, folks were going through a whole lot. And some people were surviving and thriving because they had multiple skills, multiple skill sets. In this time and end, you need to have language skills. You need to have digital marketing skills. You need to have selling skills. And so Napoleon Hill is right. No man's education ever ends. You must have a deliberate, intentional reading program, training program for yourself, like a daily diet, else you won't mentally grow. So that's a good way to close, right? Use something that's dramatic. Another kind of close is called the invitation close. Now, if you're following me, you notice that we talked about the challenge close, and we said one word you notice about the challenge close is the you. You can, you should, you would, you can. You're using your directed. I challenge you. You're challenging people to take action and do stuff. That's challenge close. But the invitation it presupposes that you're at the same level with them. So use the word we and us. Let us. We should. I invite you so that we can. So very often, you would have us say we. So the invitation clause is a very powerful way to close a presentation. You want to use that to get a lot of results and get people following. Right. So I'll give you an example here. More than 450 years before Christ, Confucius once said, "What I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. What I do, I understand. Let's do it together. We have heard what we have to do. Now is the time to do it, and together we can do it. Together we can do it. Together we can do it." It's called the invitation clause, inviting people to do stuff. All right, now let me do two more. Oh no, we don't want to miss this one. It's called the repetitive clause. The repetitive clause. What is the repetitive clause? Have you ever listened to Steve Harris or to somebody who who has this ring in his presentation? He keeps repeating certain ring, he keeps repeating on and on. So the idea basically is find a phrase and structure it in a repetitive format that strikes the cadence of a drummer. Like usually I'll say you can make it, and then I'll say you can make it, then I'll say you can make it. You repeat that you can make it at the end of the presentation, you now say you can make it. So you've repeated it severally. You can do it in different ways. You can be very creative about this. I'll give you one style that somebody used. I've been saying life is an adventure, dare it, a duty, perform it, an opportunity, take it, a journey, complete it, a promise, fulfill it, a puzzle, solve it, a goal, achieve it. So, the rules for closing and using the repetitive clause is tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you have just told them. Alright, the last kind of clause that you can use is called the congratulatory clause. And here you salute the audience, you affirm the audience. And I tell people that one of the things you want to do very often in gaining connections with the audience is to affirm them, salute them, get them to fly, get them to be with you, thank them for listening, thank them for doing stuff like I am thanking you now. A lot of you are sat through. I've seen Esther Odofia, happy new month. I've seen Meru Umana, she's watching, thank you. Faith Isangadi, thank you for watching, God bless you. Pamela Obazi, I see what you do, you're fantastic, well done. I wish you the best. I know that as you learn these things and as you try to apply them in your speaking and presentation, you will become that speaker that you desire to be. Thank you very much, and God bless you.